Welcome to Square One Module 10. This module will help you keep the proper perspective as you move forward in your healing journey, like what to expect during the healing process, how to identify the best therapies, the benefits and risks of conventional tests, and safer alternatives, plus how to interpret your test results, blood markers you should be watching, and monitoring tests that you can order without a doctor. So let's start with the healing process. One thing you need to understand is that healing happens in phases, and everyone is different. So some cancer patients heal very quickly, some take a little longer, some take years to get well. So you need to have realistic expectations, and that is, we don't know how long it's going to take. You are different than me and different than every other cancer patient, so it's important to keep that in mind. There may be some trial and error involved, so you need to be methodical with your approach. Some therapies work for some people and don't work for others, but the only way to know if what you're doing is working is to monitor your progress. You can't just do a whole bunch of therapies and try a bunch of diets and take a bunch of supplements and then let months or years go by and hope for the best. I know you may be afraid to get tested because it might be bad news, but you need to do it. You have to face down your fear, and you need routine testing to make sure that what you're doing is working, because if it's not working, you'll need to make some changes. The sooner you know if something isn't working, the sooner you can try a different approach. I believe that what I've outlined for you in this course is the absolute best first approach for you to radically change your life and support your body's ability to heal. That's why it's called Square One. Now, there are certainly other options available to you if you don't get the results you want. You can go to a clinic in Mexico or Germany or Switzerland or wherever, but I think this is the best possible starting point because you have to change your life first. The next thing you need to know is that healing happens in phases. There are ups and downs in the process. You may feel great for a while, and then you may have a few days or a few weeks where you feel terrible. And you might think, like, oh no, am I getting worse? You might have some aches and pains. And of course, when you have cancer, you think every ache and pain is more cancer. Relax. It's probably not. I've had lots of aches and pains come and go in the last 13 years, and none of them were cancer. But anyway, health doesn't improve in a straight line. If you've ever looked at financial reporting, when a stock rises in value, over time, it doesn't go up in a straight line. It goes up a little, and then it goes down a little, and then it goes up a little more, and then it goes down a little more, and then it goes up again. It's trending up over time, but there are small setbacks along the way. The healing process is the same way. You'll get better and feel great for a while, and then you may have a little setback, and then you feel great again, and then you have another setback. Your body is working things out. It's repairing, it's regenerating, it's detoxifying. Trillions of chemical reactions are happening every day, and it's doing things that we don't even understand. But the point is, sometimes you have to get worse before you can get better. If you've ever been sick with a virus, you know that your body runs a fever and you feel terrible. But that fever is actually a good thing. That's your body ramping up your immune system, waging full assault on the virus to destroy it. The fever makes you feel bad, but it's part of the healing process. By the way, if you do get sick and run a fever, it could be a great thing. Your body could be ramping up your immune system and destroying cancer cells along with viruses, bacteria, and other pathogens. Bad things in life often turn into good things. Believe that. Okay, so healing happens in phases, and you've got to be methodical, and you need to monitor your progress. Now let's talk about the different scenarios you can expect as a cancer patient. Best case scenario number one is you adopt the radical life-changing principles I've laid out in Square One. You give it 100%, and in 90 days, you get your blood work or a scan. And you find out that your cancer markers are down and the tumor is shrunk, or you have multiple tumors and some of them are gone, or all of them are gone. That's the best case. Your body responds and heals quickly. If that happens, don't go back to your old way of life. You need to stay on this program for at least a couple years because it takes a few years to completely rebuild and create a new, healthy, quote-unquote, cancer-proof body. So if you start getting good results right away, don't slack off because you're still in the danger zone, and cancer can easily bounce back if you let down your guard in the first phase of healing. Don't make that mistake. Sometimes a patient will adopt a hardcore nutritional protocol, natural therapies, herbs, supplements, whatever, and after a few months they feel better, their symptoms reduce, the pain goes away, tumor starts shrinking, and then for some reason they let their doctor talk them into treatment. It's a strange phenomenon, but I've seen it many times. The natural strategy is working, but then they get impatient or the fear takes over and their doctor says, well, now that your tumor shrunk, this would be a great time to have surgery or start chemo or do some radiation, all of which carry numerous risks, including making cancer stem cells more aggressive and promoting metastasis. If you're shrinking a tumor with nutrition, you don't need any conventional therapies. Just keep going. So the best case scenario is that it starts shrinking or it goes away quickly. If that happens, stay the course. Best case scenario number 2 is that there's no change. Let's say you start this protocol and after 90 days you get blood work or a scan and there's no change. It's not uncommon for cancer doctors to spin this as bad news. If your doctor knows you're doing alternative therapies, they might say, see, what you're doing isn't working, the tumor's still there, your cancer markers haven't changed, you need chemo, or whatever. No change means it stopped growing. That's good. Don't let them put a negative spin on that and try to scare you into treatment. A tumor has to stop growing before it can shrink. You have to stop it first. The body prioritizes healing. That means when you adopt a radical diet and lifestyle change, your body may heal other things first. It may be healing your liver, your kidneys, your lungs, your thyroid. The tumor is on the to-do list, but it hasn't gotten to it yet. That's okay. If your tumor stopped growing, that is very good news. And hey, it may never shrink. You may have to live with the tumor for the rest of your life, but that's okay, right? If it stops growing, it can't take over your body and it can't kill you. It may go dormant or it may die and become scar tissue. If you have a non-growing tumor in your body, you can live with it forever, right? Best case scenario number 3 is it slows down. Remember, it's got to slow down first, then it can stop, then it shrinks. If the rate at which it's growing slows down, that means you've bought yourself some more time. That means what you're doing is working to some degree. You may not have it dialed in exactly right. You may need to try some new things, make some modifications, tweak your protocol, but that is still positive news. Slowing a tumor down is a good thing. And the only way to know if it's slowing down is to look at how much it's growing between incremental periods of time. Usually your doctor can tell, but again, you can't trust them completely because they tend to be biased against nutrition and natural therapies. And they may try to spin the test results to make it look like what you're doing isn't working, when in fact it may be. So if it slows down, that's good. You've got to slow it down first before you can stop it. 4th scenario, your tumor keeps growing at the same rate. If the cancer markers in your blood continue to rise and your tumor is growing, then what you're doing may not be working, and you may need to consider a different strategy. I met a woman last year who healed breast cancer with nutrition and natural therapies. And she told me that in the beginning, her tumor got bigger and more painful, which I'm sure was concerning. I mean, that would be really scary. But she stayed the course, and then around month 5, it started shrinking. And by the end of the year, it was gone. Like I said, sometimes you have to get worse before you can get better. Before we get into specific tests, I've got one more thing for you to think about. The days and weeks leading up to a new test can produce a lot of anxiety. We call it scanxiety. Stress and anxiety suppress your immune system, and if testing and scans is causing you a lot of anxiety, space them out further. I think testing and monitoring is important, but I also know patients who despised being conventional medical patients. So much so that they decided never to go back to the doctor, and they got well. This is your life. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Okay, now let's talk about specific tests. It's a good idea to get a test done right at the beginning of starting a new protocol to establish your baseline. If you've had testing done within a month, that's okay. Just keep in mind that a test is just a snapshot. It's not the whole story, and snapshots can be misleading, especially blood work. You can have crazy looking blood work one day and normal the next. So you have to compare tests over time to understand what's happening in your body. The first test on the list is the RCGG Onconomics Plus test. It used to be called the Oncostat test, and it's also known as the chemosensity test or the Greek test. In this test, they take your blood and separate out the circulating tumor cells, and then they test a bunch of drugs and natural compounds against those tumor cells to see what makes them stop growing or die. They test about 100 different drugs, chemo drugs and targeted therapy drugs, and they can tell you if drugs like cisplatin or 5-FU will have any effect before you let your oncologist put them in your body. If you're considering chemo, wouldn't it be nice to know if your cancer responds to the drugs they want to give you? The Grease test will give you a much better indication of whether or not chemo drugs will have any effect. They also test 45 natural compounds against your cancer, like vitamin C, Laetrile, Indo-3-carbinol, and mistletoe, so you can see which natural therapies might be effective against your type of cancer. And there's genetic testing involved as well. Basically, it's going to help you identify which therapies, conventional or alternative, and which nutraceutical compounds may be most effective against your type of cancer. And you can find that out before you spend any money on treatments that may not help you. Unfortunately, most oncologists don't use the Grease test, and it's not covered by insurance. But I think it's a worthwhile investment, and you get the results back in about 10 days. The website is rgcc-group.com. Next is MammaPrint. This is a genetic test for early stage breast cancer patients with 0 to 3 positive nodes. And it calculates the risk of recurrence and whether or not a patient will even benefit from chemotherapy. In the MINDACT Phase 3 clinical trial, the MammaPrint test reduced chemotherapy prescriptions by 46% among more than 3,300 patients in the trial. This groundbreaking test basically proved that nearly half of early stage breast cancer patients don't need chemo. And the good news is the MammaPrint test is covered by Medicare and most insurance companies. There's a similar test called the Oncotype DX, but it has not been proven in a Phase 3 clinical trial, so go with the MammaPrint test. Like MammaPrint, there's a similar test for stage 2 colon cancer patients called ColoPrint, and that calculates the risk of recurrence as well. Low risk means a patient has about an 8% risk of relapse within 3 years and 11% risk of relapse within 5 years without chemo. A high risk means that a patient has 20% risk of relapse within 3 years and a 22% risk of relapse within 5 years without chemo. Find out more about the MammaPrint and the ColoPrint test at agendia.com. Now let's talk about scans. CT scans are typically used to detect new tumors and to monitor changes in tumor size. They can spot a lesion or a tumor, but they can't verify whether or not they're cancerous. What most patients don't know, including me in 2004, is that the radiation from a CT scan is 100 to 1,000 times stronger than a conventional X-ray, depending on what part of your body they're scanning. And that ionizing radiation used in CTs causes DNA damage and increases cancer risk. It's estimated that between 3 and 5% of cancers are caused by diagnostic radiation. Every CT scan you get increases your risk of future cancer, and the risk is much higher for babies, children, and young adults. So it's important to be cautious about your exposure to CT scans. There are other ways you can monitor your progress without subjecting yourself to potentially cancer-causing radiation. Another problem with CT scans is they can also result in overdiagnosis and overtreatment. A 2013 study published in JAMA found that lung cancer diagnosis rate was 11% higher with CT scans compared to X-rays, and that 1 in 5 lung tumors found on CT scans are growing so slowly that they're unlikely to cause a patient any problems at all. The study also reported that 320 patients have to get a CT scan to prevent one lung cancer death. That means for every 10 lives saved by a CT lung cancer screening, roughly 14 people will be diagnosed with a lung cancer that would have never caused them any harm. As many as 20% of lung cancer patients are suffering financially, emotionally, physically, and in some cases dying from the side effects of unnecessary treatment. Lung cancer is our #1 killer with a 5-year survival rate of about 17%. And remember, many 5-year survivors still have cancer. The small percentage of lung cancer patients that are quote unquote cured may only be so because they were overdiagnosed and treated for a disease that was not life-threatening to begin with. In 2011, a team of doctors at Sloan Kettering published a study in the Journal of Clinical Oncology that examined the reliability of CT scans. They took 30 patients with stage 3 and 4 lung cancer and a tumor size of at least 1 centimeter and gave them a CT scan. 15 minutes later, the patients had another CT scan on the same scanner. On the second scan, some of the tumors shrunk by as much as 23%, and some tumors grew by as much as 31%. Again, this was after 15 minutes. Of course, the tumors didn't really grow or shrink. The study proved that CT scans can be unreliable when measuring cancer progression. And a tiny discrepancy in a CT scan can have massive consequences. If a CT scan shows that your tumor shrunk by 23%, you and your doctor might incorrectly assume that your treatment is working. If a CT scan showed that your tumor grew by 31%, you would assume the opposite, in which case your doctor would probably recommend more aggressive treatments, which may be completely unnecessary and harmful. The big takeaway here is that scans have a significant margin of error and can be misleading for measuring small tumor progression. A CT scan showing a 20 to 30% change in size may not mean anything at all. To give you some additional perspective, let's assume your tumor did grow by 30%. Although 30% sounds huge, in reality, this may only represent a change of a few millimeters. So don't let large percentages on tiny tumors freak you out. A 1 centimeter tumor that grew by 30% is still only 1.3 centimeters, which is tiny. Next up is the PET scan. PET scans are often used in combination with CT scans. The CT scan takes the picture, and the PET scan is used to indicate whether or not a spot may be cancerous with a radioactive glucose tracer that they inject into your body. Cancer cells uptake glucose faster, and the radioactive glucose concentrates in lesions and tumors that are cancerous and lights them up on a PET scan. But non-cancerous infections and areas of inflammation can also light up on a PET scan and make you think your cancer is spreading when it isn't. PET scan radiation is very high. You're getting radioactive glucose injected into your blood, and they're hitting you with a CT. So a typical PET scan can expose you to 1,000 times more radiation than a chest X-ray. Not something you want to get very often, if at all. And by the way, these scans are not mandatory. You don't have to get a scan just because your doctor wants you to. The scan is not going to help you get well. All the scan is going to do is tell them if your cancer is growing or shrinking, or if there's cancer in other parts of your body, but it could be wrong and lead to unnecessary treatment. Next is the MRI, which is magnetic resonance imaging. The MRI uses magnetic fields and radio waves, so there's no ionizing radiation. And compared to CT and PET scans, it's much safer. MRIs can spot lesions and tumors, but they can't verify whether or not they're cancerous. Now, some healthcare providers don't like to use the MRI because they're more expensive, so they require other diagnostic tests first. But MRIs are a much safer alternative to the CT and PET scan. And if you want an MRI instead, you may have to fight with your insurance company to get it paid for. Next is ultrasound. Ultrasound is a safe, non-invasive method that uses high-frequency sound waves instead of X-rays or radiation to produce images of your internal organs and babies in the womb. In some cases, tumor size and progression can be measured with ultrasound. It's totally safe and much cheaper than a CT, PET, or MRI. Thermography is also a safe, non-invasive screening method that uses infrared cameras that show temperature variations in the body, like in breast tissue. Hot spots on a thermography scan can indicate inflammation, a precancerous condition, or cancer. Now, thermography cannot diagnose cancer, but it can be useful to monitor changes in inflammation, which could mean changes in cancer. Thermography is growing in popularity as a safe alternative to mammograms. Just Google thermography and the name of your city to see if there's a practitioner in your area. Now let's talk about blood tests. There are several different cancer markers in your blood that your doctor can order for you. Elevated cancer markers typically indicate cancer progression, but there can be other causes of elevation leading to false positives. So always keep that in mind. Okay, here are the few of the most common cancer markers. First is the CEA. This is a broad spectrum tumor marker used to detect cancer activity in the body. A normal CEA is less than 3. The CA-125 is an ovarian cancer marker. Normal is between 1.9 and 16.3. The CA-15-3 is a breast cancer marker. Normal is between 7.5 and 53. It's a pretty big range. The CA-19-9 is used for colorectal, gastric, and pancreatic cancer. Normal for that is under 36. And then there's the PSA, prostate-specific antigen. That's a prostate cancer marker. Normal PSA is under 4. All of these can be ordered by your physician, and if you have insurance, your insurance should cover it. It should cost you very little out of pocket. If you're working with an integrative practitioner, ask them about a heavy metals test to see if you have high levels of toxic heavy metals like mercury, aluminum, lead, cadmium. Also ask about a micronutrient profile test like the SpectraCell test. This will show you if you have any vitamin or mineral deficiencies that need to be addressed. Next are some additional tests that can help you monitor your progress without a doctor. First is the Navarro urine test. This test measures the amount of HCG in your urine, which can be elevated if you have cancer. You can order this test yourself. You just collect a urine sample, mail it in, you get the results back in about 3 weeks. If your test result comes back under 50, that means you probably don't have cancer. If you're over 50, that means there may be some cancer in your body. The higher the number, the more likely you have cancer. The Navarro urine test is the cheapest, easiest way to monitor your progress, but it's only about 70% accurate because roughly 30% of cancers are not detectable by an HCG test. So if you get a Navarro urine test and it shows that there's no cancer, but you definitely have cancer, then obviously that's not a good monitoring test for you, but you've only wasted $55. You can order that through navarromedicalclinic.com. Another test is the Oncoblot test. This is a blood test that can detect 25 different types of cancer by measuring ENOX2, which is a protein shed by cancer cells into the blood. You can order this through your physician if they are familiar with it, and it may be covered by your insurance. If you can't get it through your doctor, you can order it over the phone from Cancer Center for Healing in California. It costs about $250 to $300, and they'll do a follow-up consultation with you to go over the test results. You can learn more about the Oncoblot at oncoblotlabs.com. Another popular cancer marker test is the American Metabolic Laboratories CA Profile test. This is a combination of 7 tests, blood and urine, which makes it more reliable. There's an HCG urine test and an HCG blood test. It also includes the CEA and a PHI enzyme test. Elevated PHI enzyme can indicate cancer, but it can also be elevated if you have viral disease, heart disease, liver disease, or muscular disease. The CA profile also measures GGTP, which can indicate cancer-related problems with your liver, pancreas, heart, lung, and kidneys. The CA profile measures TSH, which is thyroid-stimulating hormone. If you're hypothyroid, that can be a precursor to cancer, but it can also be caused by chemo because chemo damages the thyroid. The last marker in the CA profile is DHEA, which is an anti-stress and immunity hormone, which is typically very low in cancer patients. If all of these markers are in abnormal ranges, then cancer is more likely. Now let me say something else. If you measure too soon, you might get a scary result. There's a phenomenon called tumor lysis, which is tumor die-off. So if what you're doing is working and your body starts breaking a tumor down really fast, it will release dead cancer cells into your bloodstream to be filtered out and eliminated, and cancer markers in your blood will spike. According to MedicineNet, both benign and malignant conditions can increase CEA levels. Chemotherapy and radiation therapy can cause a temporary rise in CEA due to the death of tumor cells and release of CEA into the bloodstream. Fluctuating levels of CEA during cancer treatment must always be correlated with other clinical findings. While worrisome, changes in CEA are not diagnostic of cancer progression on their own. So blood markers going up in the beginning may not mean you're getting worse. It may mean you're getting better. So that's why you don't want to jump to any conclusions if you get blood work in the first month after starting a hardcore healing protocol. I think it makes sense to wait at least 30 to 45 days after starting square one and then test again at the 60 or 90-day mark. I also think it makes sense to get blood work done through your doctor because it's the cheapest way to monitor your progress. I worked with an integrative oncologist, the late Dr. Roy Page, who supported what I was doing. Every month he ordered blood work and we looked at various blood markers, including the CEA, to look for any changes. And about every 6 months for the first 2 years, he ordered a CT scan for me. Knowing what I know now, I would have had some of the blood tests I mentioned above instead of the CTs. I just didn't know about them. Now, depending on your type of cancer, there may not be a blood marker for you. If not, try the Navarro urine test or the OncoBlot or the American Metabolic Laboratories test for monitoring. An MRI, CT, or a PET scan will give you a picture of what's changed in your body. But the only way to know for sure if a spot is cancerous is with a biopsy. But they have risks as well. A 2004 study found that biopsies increase the risk of metastasis for breast cancer. Another study on pancreatic cancer did not find an increase in risk. So the jury is still out on this. It may depend on the type of cancer. Now let's talk about your testing mindset. My opinion is if there's a new lump or bump, you should treat it like cancer. And if you're trying to decide whether or not to do a CT or a PET scan at any point in the future, ask yourself, if this scan finds any more cancer, am I going to do anything differently? If your answer is no, if the results of a scan are not going to make a difference in your strategy, then there may not be any point in the scan. Don't feel like you need to get scanned out of fear. You just need to get some kind of testing to make sure that you're on the right track. And you need to decide ahead of time what your next steps will be depending on the test result you get. You should hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Many patients only hope for the best and then they go into a tailspin when they don't get good news. And then they make impulsive, irrational, fear-based decisions and get rushed into treatment they don't want to do. Don't let that be you. Think of yourself like Thomas Edison. Take an organized, methodical approach to your situation. You're conducting a healing experiment on your body, and you need to know if it's working. Edison tried 1,000 different light bulb filaments before he found the one that worked. Hopefully, you won't have to try 1,000 different therapies to get well, but you may have to make some changes along the way. Sometimes trial and error is involved, and that's totally okay. If you don't get the result you want, don't be discouraged, because depression and discouragement will steal your joy and suppress your immune system. Try to take a stoic approach to your situation. Just accept that it is what it is. Here are the results. Now what am I going to do about it? It's really important to keep your perspective. You didn't get cancer overnight, and you aren't going to heal it overnight. It took a long time for you to get sick. It will take some time to get well. Be methodical, stick with one protocol, and monitor for at least 90 days. Don't change course until you're absolutely certain that what you're doing isn't working for you. Okay, that concludes Module 10 and the Square One coaching program. I've given you everything you need to get started to build your foundation for healing. Now it's up to you to take massive life-changing action. I firmly believe that what I've shared with you in Square One can have a dramatic impact on your life and your health. And I can't wait to share your healing story. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Hey everyone, Casey and Jody here, and this is our third video update, and we are so thankful to be able to bring you happy news again.
Yes, I was diagnosed in 2017 with rectal cancer. I started Square One immediately, saw results in a matter of weeks on some scans, decided to still have the surgery, but no chemo, no radiation. I'm sticking with the Square One diet still. Scans are still clean, blood work's still good, so that's the road I'm going to go.
And for me, I can say Square One has taken the fear away and given me a targeted plan that I can help him every day. And as a bonus, I feel better than I have in a couple decades.
My husband and I want more kids, and I thought, I don't want radioactive iodine anywhere near my eggs. My husband and my sister, who have been my number one support from the very beginning, got to researching, and my sister found Square One. And my husband and I and my sister, all three of us did it together, which was awesome. And Square One really gave me the confidence that I needed to step onto this path that I had chosen. And it brought everything together and gave me a framework to start from. And it was great. It really feels like Chris is in your kitchen cheering you along, and there's somebody out there that believes in you. It's awesome to have my sister and my husband, but to have this other person out there that believed in you was really great.
Well, we made it. Thank you so much for watching the Square One Healing Cancer Coaching Program. If you only watched this one module, or if you watched all 10, I just want you to know how thankful I am that you took the time to tune in. And I want to thank you for all the sweet comments. That's why I do it. Okay, quick reminder, the 50% off discount goes away when the free screening ends. So if you want to own the Square One program forever and be able to go through these modules again and again to learn as much as you can from them, and to be able to share the program with someone you know who may need it in the future, now's the time to get it at the best price. Now, if you only saw a few modules and you have no idea what else is in the course, just click the link below this video, and that'll take you to a page that shows you everything that's included. There are 10 video modules that you can download or get on DVD. You get the Square One transcripts book, which is the entire course in written format. You get the Square One guidebook, which includes the recipe guide, the daily schedule, the supplement guide, the healthy home guide, my alternative cancer clinic Rolodex, excerpts from my prayer journal, and more. And you get the Square One audiobook. You also get 7 bonuses worth over $600. You get access to 6 months of live Q&A calls that I do for Square One members. You get my Cancer Answers ebook. You get a Buddy Pass, which is a bonus digital copy of the program for free that you can give to someone you care about, and they will have lifetime online access to the entire program just like you. You also get lifetime access to the Square One private online support group, where you can make new amazing friends and connect with like-minded people who understand you and will support you on your healing journey. On top of all that, you also get access to my kitchen masterclass, my 3-part Dinners with Chris series, and my water fasting masterclass, all for free. And finally, I'm giving you a 6-month satisfaction guarantee. So if you want a refund for any reason, just let me know and I'll give you a full refund, less the shipping cost. Again, on behalf of myself and my entire team, thank you so much. You all have been so awesome. Thank you for all the comments, for all the love. Over 40 people worked on this project with me, and it was a huge effort for us to create this and put it out there into the world. We all love the Square One program, and I'm so glad that you do too. If you haven't bought Square One to own yet, just click the link below this video to get the entire program at 50% off with a 6-month money-back guarantee before the price goes up. And if you have any questions at all, just click the chat button or the link at the bottom of this page to contact my team. My support angels are here to help you. And thanks again for watching and for all the love. I hope to see you on the inside.